to tonight's episode of the Group Therapy Podcast. We're going to bring back a fan favorite, one of my favorite interviews. That is Dr. Zombo. We're bringing him back.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you doing, sir?
I am doing fantastic.
Still out there in the Pacific Northwest?
For now, yeah. I keep waning on the idea of fleeing, but I think I'll stick here for a little bit.
So last time we talked, not only on the show, but online, we were talking about dreaming and trying to connect with your dreams and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I've been working really hard at this. And I haven't been able to like put something somewhere and then go back and get it. But I've been able to walk into a storefront that I've never been in. And it was an old video store. And it was still VHS tapes on the shelves. And I could walk up, pull one off the shelf, and I could read it like clearly and remember it.
See, you're getting every step is a little bit closer to what you're looking for. Okay. So don't be let down or put back. Like, it takes time.
Oh yeah.
You know, I mean, it took me years. You know, I didn't just like wake up and I was like, oh, wow, I'm walking around and I can play with myself in the dark. You know what I mean? No, you literally, you gotta give it some time. So, hey, good on you. If you can read this shit, that's better than what most people can do.
Yeah. And it's funny because like I said, I remember pulling a VHS off the shelf in this video store. I remember the cover, and I could flip it over and I could read the synopsis on the back.
You're halfway there, man.
And it was, and I can tell you what it was. It was Surf Party Slaughterhouse. That was the name of the movie.
Now, does that movie actually exist?
No, not as far as I know.
That's the best part. I've actually read halfway through books that don't exist by authors that don't exist. So it makes me wonder, is that just our alternate universe?
That's what I was going to say. I've studied a lot, and it's that we live in two universes. We live in our wake universe and our dream universe, and they're two vastly, but they both exist. And I was going to ask you about that, but you answered that question before I even had a chance.
Oh, hey, I travel around a lot in my head. I've been able to answer quite a few questions that I thought were maybe mysticism. Now, I'm not so sure.
Yeah. See, we got on this whole thing, and we actually did a show about it forever ago on like the Mandela effect and stuff like that. And like, I distinctly remember stuff that existed. Like, I could tell you where I was when I watched it in the whole 9 yards, and it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And what one is I remember the animated Kiss Halloween special from like 1979. And it doesn't exist. But I remember watching it. I can tell you where I was. And
hey, you know, it's funny. I kind of describe life in general as a giant mathematical equation, a fractal.
Yeah.
Okay. No matter how small or how big, it's all the same fucking equation. Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of perspective and how we can view it. So when you look at it from a distance, it looks like a clusterfuck of psychedelic, right? Mm-hmm. But then when you zoom in on it, there is no zooming in. You could keep zooming in for eternity, and it just keeps growing off of the same exact thing. Oh, yeah. So seeing 2, maybe 3 different altered realities, having them cross over to each other is kind of like what I was talking about, where sleeping and awake life, you know, that transfer in between.
Yeah.
And the more that you find out, like reading a movie off the shelf that doesn't exist, but you can see it clearly. Mm-hmm. That means that you're honing in the skills on realizing your situation, and it's taking you out of that cloudy, dreamlike state and making it more real.
Yeah.
And it will get more intense from there.
Yeah. And the worst part about it is, like I said last time, is I didn't really dream a whole lot when I was younger. My I didn't sleep properly and everything else like that. So I never really had dreams. And as I got older, I've been able to really kind of have a set sleep schedule, which I never really had before. Even when I did, I could, but now I can kind of, where I sleep about 6 hours a night. So I get about 4 good hours, maybe.
Yeah.
But that's a good solid, like every couple of nights, I have really good REM sleep where I'm deep sleep.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny because, like I said, I never dreamt a whole lot, and it's suddenly I'm having dreams, and now I can kind of manipulate them somewhat, not greatly, but like I said, I'm able to go in places that I don't exist, or places that I have seen the outside, but I've never been in the inside.
Right.
Now I'm like actually gone in them in my dreams, but I've never been in them in real life. So.
Oh man, I'm telling you, it's a trip. And on the fact of you saying when you're a kid you didn't really dream much, here's the funny fact. Chances are you did dream a whole hell of a lot. You just didn't remember any of it.
Yeah.
Because how many times do you wake up from a dream where right before you wake up, right before you're just holding on, grasping on to that last visual, but then you open your eyes and it's gone. That is just a hint of what it used to be, where you had a dream, you're in it, you're feeling it, you see it, and as soon as you start coming out of that, it's just gone before you even get a chance to know you did it.
It's that the difference between the child brain and the adult brain, because your child brain functions completely different than an adult brain. So
actually, a child's brain, here's the fucked up reality about kids' brains. My personal opinion is when a child is born, they already got everything that they need except for the basics, like here, put a spoon in your mouth, not your eye. Here's how you wipe your ass. Those things, slowly but surely over time, the world and adults kind of just stomp that out because we view the child as not knowing. When if we were to talk to them just like we talk to each other, they might be on par. They've already had 9 months listening to our crap inside a belly. You know what I mean? And not just listening, developing into a being as it's living through 9 months of whatever experiences we have. So it's kind of a trip.
I've read a couple articles and like a book or two on the fact that they believe that babies have unlimited potential, that it's basically society and people and their parents and stuff like that basically, for lack of a better, dumb down a baby
and ruin it.
Yeah. That's like, I hate to say this, when I was a kid, I always wanted to play guitar. Thought it'd been cool as hell. And my parents were like, well, you're never going to play. You're never going to play it. So I never played the guitar. I learned how to play bass when I got older, but it was never well enough. And I'm thinking, well, if somebody would have looked at me and went, okay, here's how you play guitar when I was like, 5, even younger than that, I may be a great guitar player now, but it's
right. And isn't it sad that the older we get, all we're doing is struggling, trying to get back to a creative headspace that we were in as a kid?
Oh yeah.
Like it's like going through some sort of brainwashing for 15, 16, 17 years, and then spending the rest of our lives trying to get back where we started. If we were just kind of left to our own in the beginning, like if you look at tribes, when their babies are born, they get fed, they get fucking, taught how to do stuff, but there is no age limit. They start from the day they can barely move, and that's just how it is. And then they are fully self-sufficient by the age of 12.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Well, when it comes to growing up and being a kid, I look at it this way, man. When I was a kid, I had the imagination, that you would not believe. And I still got a really pretty good imagination, but, you know, and I could draw pretty well and stuff like that. And as I got older, I can't draw like I used to. I don't have the, you know, I guess the imagination I used to. I have a pretty good one, but not to that level. You know, I hear stories about when I was a kid that when I was in school, they took everything away from me, everything they could, because I'd play with it. I'd play with any time. I'd make toys out of my pencils, my erasers, you name it. And so I got to the point where I had my imagination. So I'm in the corner, you know, and it was funny because they said I was fishing. So I'm literally like, you know, as a kid. And it's like, and so I was probably in my brain, I was fishing.
Yeah. Hey, I still do that shit today. But yeah, society, work, adults, all these ideas get pumped into us. The episode I just put out last night kind of touches on that a little bit, where we are handed down what has become and what was left over of our parents.
Yeah.
And all they had was what they carried on from their parents. You know what I mean? And it's kind of good to see that parents are trying their hardest to be a little bit more involved emotionally.
Oh yeah.
With children. But there's still this underlining fact that's like, you need to grow up, and you need to stop imagining and stop daydream. Well, you know, if it wasn't for the daydreamers and the artists, this world would look like shit.
Oh yeah. Well,
I mean, we're the ones that bring civilization, and they want to pound it out of you.
Mm-hmm. Well, what was bad is I remember when my kids, my older boys, were still in school, and you know, they're like, well, they need to grow up. I'm like, man, they're kids. You know, why are you trying to knock this out of kids? You know, I had to grow up super fast. And I, you know, as I got older, I kind of regressed a little bit, but I guess in a good way. I'm, you know, I love my kids, man. I think they have all the potential in the world, and you know, I'm for them whatever they want to do.
Yeah.
And you know, I just look at these parents, you know, and especially being in my store, I see these parents that come in and then they hate what their kids do. You know, the kids that come in and read comic books or play Magic or something like that, you could just see the disappointment in the parents' face when they're like, yeah, give them a couple packs of Magic. You know, they're like, man, when my kids do stuff, I love it. My son Joe is the he is the one that like looks at everything. Me and him have had discussions about music, and his mom's had discussion about music and movies and stuff like that. And he will go and look at music and go, okay, I know where this guy got his ideas. And then he'll look at that and he'll go and he'll look at everything as, you know, exponentially outward. And I'm like, yes, this is what I want as a parent, that you look at everything like that.
Right. Well, I mean, you can blame the parents to a point, but you can't, because here's the deal. They're seeing the struggles that they're going through. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like when I used to train supervisors. Okay, mm-hmm. I would find someone that had drive and I'd be like, hey, they could work out. But the biggest problem that happens is they never find their middle ground. Okay, where they're either too hard-handed or they're too soft. And growing up and being an adult is finding that middle ground where you can handle the rough shit, because you know life's going to be crap here and there, mm-hmm. and you got to be able to handle it and move on. And then you also have to have the soft spot, but not too soft so you don't get taken advantage of.
Yeah.
If they worked more on being right in the middle, it would be great. Unfortunately, that's not how humans work.
No.
You know what I mean? You get 1 out of 500 that can do that, and then the rest of them are all either one or the other, and then they just sit there and point fingers at each other because they're not doing it right. And then that gets translated to children, and they're just sitting there going like, what am I supposed to be? You want me to grow up, but like I'm 5 years old?
Yeah, it's amazing. You know, I'm sitting there watching them, and I remember when my kids were maybe junior high-ish and being pulled into school because they're like, well, they're being weird. They need to grow up. I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, they're kids, man. I
Oh,
was forced to grow, you know, it's like,
yeah. Hey, tell me about it. You know what used to happen when they would pull me in? Okay. My son's name is Vicious, and that was already a problem. They're all, well, we're not going to call him that. I had one teacher calling him Bobby, and he was like, Dad, this teacher keeps calling me Bobby. That's not my name. And I was like, I know it's not. So I went in. I was like, what the fuck's your problem? You don't know how to call a kid by his name? I was like, what the fuck's the difference between Bobby and Vicious? Nothing. Well, Vicious is a rude name. I was like, doesn't matter. It's his name. It's not your fucking choice. And that's just where it started.
oh yeah.
And then he liked horror movies, which I'm sure your kids do too. So he's drawing pictures of Freddy and Jason. And oh no, he's gonna shoot up the school or something. No, he's not. That's his bag.
Oh yeah. Well, my son, we got called in because he wrote, they had somebody come in and talk in this class, and he's super sarcastic kid, has been since day one.
Good.
And he's like, oh my God, if he goes, I was so tired of it, I wanted to kill myself. And I was like, we got pulled in, he had to go to the counselor and everything, and we're just like, he's being a smart ass. Don't you see that?
They don't, because
No.
they don't understand how to be it themselves.
No.
It's a benign, weird, non-realistic approach to living that they don't get.
Mm-hmm.
They don't get. Some of these teachers, unfortunately, don't understand kids enough to be teachers.
Yeah. And it's funny because literally when I graduated high school, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a teacher because I wanted to be the one who was like, man, no, guys, that's bullshit. You know, I wanted to be the teacher that stepped up. And then I realized, you know, you're not going to get anywhere in school as a teacher being that teacher because they don't want teachers like that.
No. And you know, I'm not even talking shit about teachers. There's some bad teachers out there.
Oh, yeah.
But when you're dealing with classrooms that used to be 5, 10, 15 kids, now are 30, 35, and they're all a bunch of like pre-hormonal brats running around screaming with imagination.
Mm-hmm.
Hell, I don't know if I could put up with that. No. And I love people with imagination.
Oh,
I mean, but holy crap.
Yeah, it's one of the ones where you're looking at them, they just want them to calm down, do the schoolwork, regurgitate facts, and get out. And it's funny because I know a couple teachers who, like, you know, they want kids to learn. They want them to like what they do. I mean, I went through school and I had maybe 3 teachers that really got me, that understood how my brain worked and like, do this. I had my high school military history teacher. Dude loved me. He looked at me. He goes, you know this. He goes, the fact is that, you know, you're enjoying what you're learning. And he let me learn the way I wanted to learn. Yeah. And I think I graduated that class with like 108 average because I never missed a question on any test. Because it was just the way he taught me, I learned, and it just stuck. And it's most of it's still there to this day.
And that's the thing. If you let a kid use their imagination in a learning environment where they have freedom to learn the way that they want and pick up on the things that they enjoy, and then see, and let me stop there for a second, because teachers used to have more freedom to do things like that.
Mm-hmm.
In our day, they did.
Yeah.
And then there was that whole No Child Left Behind thing that just never went away. And I saw it change because I had a couple of my kids' teachers come to me and be like, there's nothing I can do. They just give me a packet of Xeroxed off crap at the beginning of the year, said, here's your curriculum, here's the lessons, don't stray from it.
Yep.
So then they become underpaid babysitters.
Yeah. So
by taking away from how a kid learns and by not focusing in on how they like to learn and understanding that, they walk away not knowing much of shit. And they'll find what they want to learn about in other places, and that might not be a good thing.
No. You know, you get, if they don't learn, you know, have fun learning and enjoy it, it becomes tedious to them and they don't want to deal with it. I mean, I had teachers that hated me because, like I said, my brain don't function like normal people at all. I mean, you always see those movies where the psychics are reading the brain and they know exactly what the person's thinking. That would never happen. My head's going a billion miles an hour. You know, I was like, there's music lyrics going on in here. There's movies, there's books, there's comics, and it's all going on simultaneously. And
you're talking to the doctor, man. I know.
Oh yeah.
I know how this shit goes.
Well, it wasn't even until like a couple years ago, when, I hate to say this, my eyesight started going bad, that I started slowing down on what I used to do. My mom hated it. My wife thought it was hilarious when we and her got together. I would watch TV, play video games, listen to music, and read at the same time. And without missing a beat, because I'd just be like, my brain would be catching everything. I'd have the book here, listening to music, watching TV, because I'd have the TV next to the TV with the video game on, and I'd just be playing video games, and I'd get everything. Nothing. Yeah. I mean,
it's fucking crazy.
Yeah. And now I can only do like 3 things at the same time.
Hey, the older we get, I understand with eyesight. I mean, I'm basically legally blind in one eye, and I've got tinnitus so bad that everything's fucked up in there. But, you know, I just keep rolling. Even if I can't see what I'm doing, I just keep doing it.
I had to cheat. I actually, about 2 years ago, I had to start using glasses so I could read books and stuff again.
Well, I wear glasses all the time. I have to have a tint on them because bright lights. I'm not going to go into how that all happened, but yeah, bright lights kind of fuck with my eyes a bit. So even at work, they're like, why are you wearing sunglasses? And I was like, they're not, man. They're fucking tinted because you got these goddamn bright ass lights on. What the fuck am I supposed to do? I get headaches and shit.
Yeah. Well, you talk about tinnitus. I worked in factories and stuff for years and went to concerts and stuff and other things. And I used to always have a ringing in my ear, and it's they say it doesn't go away, but I've been working in factories for like 7 years now, and I don't have that as much as I used to.
Of course.
Yeah.
Because you're not constantly damaging your ears.
Yeah.
It's like, my ears will be fine. Go in, get in front of, a room full of 24 machines cutting, giant rings of ceramic. The tone is unbelievable. I mean, I got to wear earplugs and earmuffs just so I can survive. And I leave there and my ears are still fucked.
Well, the worst part about it was a few years ago, I went to a concert and was fine, did the entire show. And mind you, I was up front, so it was like, boom, front stage right there. And no problem. I had forgot something I wanted to get signed out in my car. So I took off out of the club, ran to my car. I'm digging in the thing, and all of a sudden I realize there's no noise. And I look up, and there's cars driving by, and there's people, and I don't hear any of it. And I thought, oh, this is the day I go deaf. This is the moment I've been dreading for years. This is when it goes out. And I'm like, oh, man. So I grab my stuff out of the car, and I go walking back into the club. And I'm sitting there going, oh, man, now I got to figure out how I'm going to talk to my wife. and I start hearing it, and it starts crackling, and I can hear that, like it, and but you hear stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I get in the club, and I can start hearing everything's kind of like that high pitched noise is still in the background, but I'm like, oh my God. So then after that, I've been even more careful, but now I don't work in a factory no more. So I'm like, all right, cool. I don't worry about that.
Yeah, man, it'll kill you over time, man. I'm glad that I listened to enough music to where even when music's not playing, it's playing. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Like the ones that really bug me at about 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, you got some horrible 80s song you would never listen to on purpose, stuck in your head on a loop.
Yep.
Like, fucking Boy George or something, just, do you want to hurt me? Do you want to hurt me? Just over and over. And it's just like, fuck me, it's time for bed.
Every once in a while, the only way I can get rid of that is I actually have to listen to the actual song.
Yeah, see, I don't play into it because I don't need that shit. I don't want to know the rest of the lyrics. I'll stick with the 5 seconds so I don't have to put up with the rest of it. But I've tried that before. It just made things worse.
Well, recently, I discovered something that works for me. And it started when I was doing editing for the show. I started listening to music soundtracks, the scores. And that music is supposed to be played in the background. It's not supposed to be really noticeable. And that will knock a song out of my head because it's there.
Yeah.
Especially, some of the stuff I got, is like I said, I've got horror movie soundtracks and
I've been watching.
Yeah.
You post up all your albums and stuff. No, it's a great collection.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, man, it helps, man. It just knocks that garbage out. My son can be over there watching TV, watching his YouTube videos or whatever he's watching at the time. And I'll have the record player going and I'll be listening to that. And I lose it. I don't hear that. I can lose, I can edit a show together. It takes me an hour. It feels like it's 20 minutes. And it works so well. So.
Oh yeah, I have a problem anymore. I love music with vocals and stuff like that, but I've really strayed away from music with vocals anymore. For the most part, unless I really want to hear it. Just I have a problem with being introduced to a preconceived idea and like structure of this thing, that, you're going to have to feel this way because that's the way I sang it. Here's the story I want you to hear. It's so much nicer to just come up with your own conclusions. I guess the older I get, the less I want structure. And I know it should be the other way around, but fuck me. I'm already burnt out,
Hey, you're the exact opposite of me. I have order, and it's my OCD. I get it. It's I have things I do in order every day. But yeah, and then for me, music is okay. I'm in a car, I'm driving. It's almost always metal. I'm at home editing. It's usually musical scores. If I'm at home chilling out, it's, synthwave or something like that I'm listening to. And it's just where I'm at. And then if I'm really, really in a bad mood or something like that, it's black metal. It's the hard stuff.
Yeah, see, I kind of suffer from FIM.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've heard of that condition.
Mm-mm.
It stands for fuck it, man. I just, I get that thing going. It's like, I get in and I'm like, I did this yesterday. I got to throw it out the window.
I wish I could do that. My wife hates it. I get up and I get up at the same time almost every day. I get my kid up. I get him his breakfast. I get everything. Boom. Every other day I leave. I go to the gym. I get home. I eat. Whatever. I go to work. I go to the shop. I come home. I do it, and it's like boom, 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 boom. And for me, like I said, it's the OCD and it's the way the brain works.
No, it's called being a father. Let me tell you something, bud. I had, even in my most chaotic moments, because for some reason, raising my child, okay, being the boss at work, you know, running my own shit and all this crap, I had my well-oiled machine. Unfortunately, even that was pissing me off subconsciously, that I would find every chance I could to just fuck up everything chaotically, still manage to get it all right, but just like lash out at myself, being like, I don't want to be an adult, but you are an adult, but I don't want to be. And it went back and forth for 18 years, you know? Yeah, I would show up to work shit-faced drunk and fucking have to piss myself on the side of the road, but I'd still get the job done and then go back to the bar, start fights, show up at home 4 hours late, trashed, like, and nobody understood why. And I didn't realize it until way later. I was like, oh, I was rebelling against my own schedule, my own mission, you know? It was like, yes, I want to be here. I want to be in my kid's life. I want to be a good husband. I want to do all these things. I want to be successful. And holy fuck, I was able to. I pulled it off. I did it damn well. But I had to rebel against myself because I didn't like the structure. Because I knew what was going to happen. I knew it was coming tomorrow and the day after and that night and every fucking chance I had. And it wore on me. I was like, where's the excitement? So I had to blow shit up so I could see some fireworks and get something different. So it's not just some OCD thing. You're a father. And here's the thing. They need that because you're still being part of their life. You're letting them explore their own selves, but you're also, through showing them, hey, here's a routine. Here's how you can have time for you. Here's how you can have time for this and make it through without stressing yourself out too much.
Oh, yeah. See, I and on top of it, back in the day when, before my youngest was born, all I did was get up, work, all that fun stuff. But I was a hard drinker at the time. So I was like, there's a good, like a 5-year gap where I was never sober. Then I got sober for a brief moment. Then I was like another 5 years where I was never sober. And I was at work, and people to this day did not know that I was drinking at work. You know, and mind you, I was a manager at a video store, but, you know, I would go and I found out stuff that people couldn't smell, or if they smelled it, they thought it was something else. So I'd go over to Speedway and get me a big, like, you know, one of the big cups, and I would drink that. I'd always make sure it was lemonade. And then I'd fill it back up with like Mike's Hard Lemonade, pop the lid back on it, and I'd sit there and drink that the rest of the shift. And people were like, oh man, you were always drinking lemonade. I was like, no, I wasn't. I was like, I was hammered, man. I was like, I don't know how the hell I functioned.
Hey, I gotta say, you're better than me, man. Like, I used to hide it when I was on the bus or something like that.
Yeah.
But, or in high school, you know, vodka. Mix vodka with just about anything sweet and you're good to go.
Yep.
But at work, unfortunately, like the job that I had for almost 18 years was part of the body modification industry and making body jewelry and whatnot. Mm-hmm. So we were all fuck ups anyway. But I would literally, like, I just didn't give a fuck. I don't know what my problem was. I would show up, almost wreck through the front of the building in my old 70s Pontiac, stumble out with a whiskey bottle in my hand, and then entice everyone else to get fucked up with me. And what turned into fuck off Fridays turned into fuck off Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I don't know how we made money, but we did.
Well, it's the worst part about it. I was hammered at my job, and I ended up being one of the best managers they ever had at that.
Hey, me too, man. I ended up being the plant manager. I don't even know how that shit went down. I go out on business trips, showing up, getting drunk with CEOs and crap. And man, you ever want to have a good time? Be the party animal. and go meet a stiff. And then get them a couple drinks in. You'd be surprised at how fucking crazy these bastards get. Pretty good shit.
Oh yeah, I know a couple of super straight laced guys. Man, you get a few drinks in them, and they're a blast.
Oh, it's like putty in your hands, you know.
Oh yeah.
Next thing you know, you wake up with your usual hangover. They wake up with a mohawk.
Oh man, that's one thing I stopped drinking a bunch of years ago, but man, I do not miss hangovers in any way, shape, or form.
Hey, I'll be honest, I am going on about 7 years.
I'm probably right there with you, 6 or 7, I think. And yeah, it was literally one of them one days, man. I'm sitting there. I had my comic book convention, and we're out with a bunch of people, and we're all hanging out because it was a success. So we're all hanging out, having drinks and eating. And I looked over and I slid my drink across the table, and said, "I'm done." Wife says, "You ready to leave?" I was like, "No, I'm not ready to leave. I'm done." And I haven't had a drink since. So
I hit that point too, and I think the one that really got me is I was dying. Literally, I was dying. I was going through seizures and going blind and shit because whole big long story. The last night I drank, I was at my last job. I had just quit. And I was hanging out with a couple of my employees and we're shooting pool. And I just got I just lost it. I broke everything in the fucking office. I pissed all over it, passed out, face down on the floor, woke up in the morning and said, "Fuck all y'all." Went home and never touched another drop. And that was 7 years ago.
Whew. Yeah.
But I went out with a bang, so hey.
Yeah, there you go. I didn't go out with a bang, but
I think you did. You had a successful night, didn't you?
Yeah, I guess I did. Yeah.
Yeah, well, pat yourself on the back. Don't be all fucking poopy pants about it.
Yeah, I made some money and made a bunch of people happy. Yes, I am.
Hey, it's not a cool thing to break a bunch of people's shit and then piss on it. Like,
No.
come on. It sounds funny, but is it cool? Not really.
No. That's a hell of a night right there. I only have one of those that it's the only reason I even know it happened was other people have told me it happened. I have no clue. I don't remember it at all. I don't remember the first thing. I remember starting the night and then waking up the next day. Nothing in between. And that's scary, but because even at my hardest drinking, I never had like where I have vague, recollections of stuff when I was drinking, but it was just that one night, man, and it was the whole thing is a blank.
God, man, I'll tell you, I can't even I couldn't even tell you how many times that happened in a single week, let alone the last 30 years. I could not. 30 years of that shit. I don't know how I made it. And the thing that I regret is, my kid will be bringing up stuff and he'll be like, "Hey, Dad, remember that time? It was really funny." And I'll be like, I finally had to admit to him the other day, and I was heartbroken. I was like, "I'm sorry, buddy. Half the stuff you talk to me about, I may have been there at that moment, but I don't remember shit. I don't remember nothing." And I think that's the biggest regret that I have is I needed to go over the edge.
Mm-hmm.
I had to, because if I didn't, I wouldn't be who I am today.
Yeah.
I let go of all of it. When people say, "Ooh, I get crazy when I drink," like I was scary, like to myself, scary, violent, weird, insane. Like I quit drinking and half my mental problems went away. I thought they were helping me, but no, man, they would make me fucking insane.
That's where I was at. I was I had depression real bad, so I was drinking to deal with the depression, and then that makes it even worse because alcohol is a depressant. So you're just layering that shit on, and you deal with it horribly. I know that like I said, I remember vague stuff, not like completely blackout. But like my friends would tell me, they're like, you know, you knew shit was going to go bad. They go, because they said you would get a shark look to your face.
Yeah, the eyes change.
Yeah. And they'd like, I would be willing to fight and throw down with anybody. I didn't care how big they were. And they're like, you're going to kill somebody because you don't stop. And I'm like, okay. And they're like, the next day, no one even knew that I would ever be like that. So like, yeah, it's mellow, you know. So,
yeah. Hey, if I could hold my shit together, I would drink to the day I died. But you know what? At this point, I haven't even been urged to drink. I supplement with other things that expand my horizons, if you will. And I'll stick to that because you know what? I realize instead of being the fucking nutbag, trying to be the hardcore motherfucker, I'm just gonna, I don't know, immerse myself in what I am.
Yeah.
100% creativity. Just keep that going.
See, you know, I made that decision a couple years back because, man, I was always one of the ones where you're like, oh, you're hard. You stay hard. You know, you don't, you know, emotions bullshit, you know. And it was like suddenly one day I was like, why am I like that? You know, it's like
well, yeah, it's why is the shell like that? And even if you get there inside and you force yourself to try to be that hardened, and you know what? The more dangerous motherfuckers out there are the ones that understand this topic.
Mm-hmm.
They're more dangerous because the ones that don't understand that are more dangerous to themselves because they're so wrapped up in trying to make sure that they can believe their story.
Oh, yeah.
But when you know your story and you know where you came from and you know what you're capable of, and you are actually strong enough to say, I don't need to be like that unless I have to be. Then you start picking up on shit that like Shaolin monks knew fucking well before we did.
Oh, yeah.
You know it, you can have it, you can use it if you absolutely have to use it. But other than that, there's no need.
Yeah. See, that was what was, you know, you talk about the Shaolin stuff. When I did martial arts years ago, and it was nice because, man, it helped focus me. But, you know, I was still young enough. And then I started, you know, still doing that practice. But then I started drinking. And it was like, you know, the patience and everything I had learned in martial arts started to go away, and the alcohol started overwhelming it. So.
Yeah, I understand. All the way down to the martial arts, man. It's funny. I was looking for a job. I was tired of doing all the crap that I had been doing. And I was back in my, I don't know, like maybe 20, 18, 19, 20. My kid was already born when I was 17. So I'm looking for a job. And I'm flipping through the paper and I'm just like, yes, back in the day where you had to flip through the paper, look for jobs, you know. I'm flipping through and I'm like, oh, well, this seems completely different and asinine. Maybe I could get away with it. And it said karate dojo, looking to train a new trainer. And I was like, hey, no experience necessary. I get to learn karate and get paid for it. All right. It was a pyramid scheme later on down the road.
Yeah.
But I learned a lot.
Yeah.
And yes, you know, in the morning I get up and go jogging in my full gi, you know, and go out in the park and, you know, karate kid it out for a couple hours before I go into the dojo. And, you know, but by nighttime, I try to show off what I knew and I just fall on my face because I was shit-faced drunk.
Yeah. See, luckily I kind of got, by the time the alcohol really kicked in, I kind of got away from it in the dojo. So I was still practicing, but I was practicing outside.
Yeah.
You know, but then I started getting it where I'd get super freaking cocky because, you know, I'm practicing martial arts and now I'm a drunk. So your brain's like, you can whoop anybody's ass. And so I'd be willing to fight everybody. And luckily, I don't think I ever really got into a fight, but I know that they always said muscle memory kicks in.
Yeah.
And so I'd always kind of get people to the ground. And as long as I could keep them on the ground, I think I was fine. Just use that. So,
hey, whatever, when you're fighting, whatever works.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I ended up leaving the karate dojo, believe it or not, and becoming a vet tech by accident. And I did that for about 2.5 years. And I'll tell you, not as calming and, cool with the karate, but damn, you could keep all your whiskey hidden in the dead dog freezer and just take little breaks whenever the hell you want. By about 5 o'clock in the afternoon doing x-rays, you're having a blast.
I'm not gonna lie though. My whole thing is that if I was ever a vet tech, I have a huge soft spot for animals.
Me too, man.
My wife makes fun of me. She calls me Snow White because animals love me. We lived like right at the edge of the country at one time, and I'd be out in the backyard and deer would come out of the backyard and follow me around. And she goes, I wish I had pictures. And there's literally a picture. She didn't get the good picture, but there's a picture. And I'm like, I got my hand out and I'm feeding an apple to a deer. But she's got it once the deer starts walking away. But everybody's like, I'm like, no, I could walk out my backyard in the morning. There'd be like groundhogs and raccoons and deer and stuff. And Tina's like, how do you do that? I'm like, I don't know. Animals love me, I guess. I was like, people not so much. Animals love me.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's part of the reason why I thought it would be a good idea to jump on it. I had applied and I was like, got a call back. And I was like, oh, man. And I was at the karate dojo when I got the call. And I started realizing, I was like, when am I going to get a fucking paycheck from this place, So I started realizing I was getting screwed. And so I show up. I didn't even have enough time to go home and get dressed. So I show up. I have a mohawk. I'm in a full karate gi. Okay. And it's the middle of summer and I'm pouring sweat. Not the kind of attire you wear to an animal hospital in an upscale neighborhood with no experience. But little did I know the guy who interviewed me was a Vietnam vet that was really into karate. And I got the job. And I'll tell you, I ran that head doctor through hell and back. I mean, I must have changed his life somewhat. He started smoking weed and sold his practice and disappeared about a year after I quit. So, hey, maybe I did somebody something good. I know I just had a good time with it. But your dreams, the reason why you have the ability to go even where you're at with your dreams, and the reason why you have the ability to interact with strange animals and shit, you carry something different that some don't. The more you know about you, the more confident you are in who you believe you are, the more animals understand that, the more your dreams open up. When you're spending your entire day subconsciously conflicted in yourself as to who you are and where you need to be and how you need to act and all this crap, instead of just being, you have no mental space or capacity left to exude confidence, and you have no mental capacity left to even contemplate why a dream would matter in the first place.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah. But it's funny because, I'm at a point now in my life that I never, like, even even though I was on my way 5 years ago to be where I'm at, definitely not 10 years ago when I started it. It's weird being successful for me. I've never, I've always just been there, even if I was a boss somewhere, it was still like, okay, there's X amount of people above me. I still get shit on, and it does this. Now I am the guy who people come to me for advice. People like coming to my store. People, you know, that I don't even really know that well come in just because I brighten their day up, which is for me is crazy, but hey, it works for them. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I think the same crap, man. Trust me. I'm like, how the fuck am I cheering up your day?
and the other day I went to, and I've said this to a couple people. I went to a horror movie convention, and you know, I do this show, and I don't want to sound like egotistical. I do this show for me. I do this show because I get to talk to people like you. I get to talk to other horror hosts. I get to talk to, you know, artists and movie makers and stuff like that you know, I wouldn't get to talk to in my regular life. And so this is like, yeah, I do it, you know, for a handful of friends that I know watch it and stuff like that. But I mean, for me, it's for me. And yeah. I'm at the convention, and these people sat down next to me, and the lady sitting there just looking at me, and she's looking at me, and she's like, are you a guest? And I'm like, no, I'm just, you know, here to shop and to get autographs. And she kind of looks at me again. She goes, do you have a show? I went, yeah, I got a couple little shows on YouTube, and that's where I seen you. She goes, you know, I'm like, okay, all right, sweet. You know, I'm like, all right. And then later on, a few hours later, I'm just walking down the hall, and this guy smacks me on the arm, and he goes, love the show, Paul. And I look, I'm expecting it to be somebody I know. Nobody, I don't know this guy from anybody, but he liked my show, and he had to tell me. And I'm like, thank you.
Hey, man, that's good. It means you got your name around, and the hard work is paying off. And the best part is when you do it for yourself, the only payoff is what you're happy with. So these are all perks that come afterwards that you weren't really expecting or even looking for. No. And that's the beauty of it. When somebody goes out of their way of being like, one day people will come up and pat me on the back, and one day they're going to be like, I'm your biggest fan. They end up trying so hard, but they miss the mark because they're not doing it for themselves.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you've seen my show.
Yeah.
I've seen your show. You do your thing for you because it makes you feel good.
Yeah.
You know, I do my thing for me. Now, I'm anal, and I want it to all look perfect because I want to be able to watch it. If I watch my own show, like there's been times, there's a couple episodes that I just scrapped because I was like, I'm watching it. No matter how many times I flipped it, I was like, this is crap. I was screaming at the screen, being like, shut the fuck up, Dr. Zombo. You're annoying. Why are you still talking? That's when I just throw it away, you know, and I start fresh, because if it doesn't work for me, it doesn't work for me. And I know if it doesn't work for me, it's definitely ain't going to work for anyone else. Now, I could be mistaken, because I could probably sit around and act like a boobah and just make weird noises and put a television under my T-shirt or something, and people be all, yay, look how fun he is.
Yeah.
But, like, that ain't the audience I want to be dragging behind me either.
Yeah. I don't know how you feel about this, but I had to describe your show to somebody. And I go,
oh, this should be good.
I go, it's Pee-wee's Playhouse, directed by Rob Zombie.
I like it. I like it. I like it.
And somebody goes, well, Rob Zombie worked on Pee-wee's Playhouse. It's like, yeah, he worked in like production. He was like a set guy. I was like, I'm talking, he directs an episode.
And then plays Pee-wee.
Yeah. And they're like, I was like, watch it. You know, then like people come back and like, yeah, you're kind of right. That's the best explanation.
Hey, you know what? Pee-wee is I've heard the Rob Zombie thing quite a bit. And the thing is I actually really dig the dude. I would love to meet the guy one day, because I cannot go into the facet of like how much me and him may have in common on an autistic level.
Yeah.
You know, like the way that we see things and lighting and like even jokes and characters that he's come up with. Like before Captain Spaulding was Captain Spaulding, even though that character existed in Rob Zombie's head for years prior, I was already that character to a lot of my friends. And then when the movie came out, they all stopped and looked at me and I was like, don't look at me. I didn't write the fucking movie, you know? But not to mention Pee-wee. I love Pee-wee. I adore Pee-wee. It was, when I was a kid, to me, it was Pee-wee, John Lennon, Elvira. Okay? I love the activism and the beauty of how John did shit. Pee-wee was just everything to me. I was like, I want your house. I want your bike. I want your goofy suit. Elvira, I just wanted her, period. Still do. I don't care if she's into chicks or not. That's even harder. I love it. If she would just let me sniff her shoes, I'd be fine with that and a good pat on the head. Just be like, good, I'm set. Okay. But Pee-wee, I used to go to school. This is no shit. I was broke when I was a little kid, but I would pick up on these characters. Oh, Indiana Jones too. I'd pick up on these characters. And if I found even the slightest hint of something that looked like what they wore, I would put on this whole facade and go to school and get my ass kicked for being Pee-wee, for being Indiana Jones. Not ever being Elvira, because that's, back in my day, you just don't ever get seen again. You get found in a dumpster or something. But yeah, or, you know, you get a E.T. doll. What do? You put it in the basket of your bike and you have his head popping out the fucking backpack. You know?
Yep.
I had Gizmo and I was like, oh, tell my friends he was alive. Like, you know, imagination.
Oh, yeah.
So thank you. I appreciate that assessment.
Yeah. You talked about that as like, I remember being a kid, man, and I made like a Ghostbuster backpack. I had like a flashlight attached to a pole. It had so that there was a radio inside the backpack, so it would make noises, and because it was cool. And
it makes you feel good, you know.
Oh yeah, that's know, people look at me now, and I do. I have a full set of Stormtrooper armor. I have a full set of Sith robes from Star Wars. I just recently got a full Spider-Man costume, and people are like, dude, aren't you? I'm like, man, I have fun. You know, I'm too old to give a shit what other people think, you know. And it's funny because the same people go, oh, aren't you a little old at? I took my kid out trick-or-treating, and I always dress up when I take him out trick-or-treating because that's for him. It's he's having fun. He likes the fact his dad dresses up, except for 1 year he decided he didn't want me to take him dressed up. And then we got out, we're outside, we're walking, we're I don't know, 15 minutes away from our house. Then he decides he wants me to be in a costume. So I'm like, bud, daddy's not going all the way back to the house because that's going to be another 15 minutes. Plus I got to get the costume on. And I was like, by the time I come back, there's going to be trick-or-treat's going to be over. I've taken him out because I have a big inflatable Godzilla costumes. I took him out trick-or-treating in that. And, but the same people who make fun of me doing that are the same people who have to get their picture taken with me when I'm out taking my kid trick-or-treating.
Yeah, because, you know, it's funny because what they're doing is they want to live vicariously through people that have enough balls to be able to just be.
Yeah.
And that's sad. It's sad because they're just holding back because they're afraid that they're going to let down their guard and somebody might think they're goofy or they might think they're stupid or childish. Who gives a fuck?
Oh, yeah. It's like, as I've told people, I was like, there is a probably better than good chance that the day I die, I'll be wearing a Star Wars t-shirt. I was like, I'm not gonna lie, there is probably a 70% chance that I will be wearing it. The other 30% will be either a metal t-shirt or a comic book related t-shirt, but it is one of those three. And oh my god,
I'm working on my out. When I go, I'm gonna have them hermetically seal me in my chair Okay, so they can come in and tour the bus and see Dr. Zombo in full rot with a sensor of some sort. So when it walks by, it just says all kinds of bullshit, like pull my finger or something. And I, like bury the bus with me in it, halfway in the ground with just a little tunnel that goes into the door, and then just seal me up in a giant clear box, let me rot so people could watch it.
Do the linen where they keep pumping you full of
wax.
Yeah, they keep fixing his face because his nose fell off, and keep pumping him full of. I
don't want to fix it. I want it to fall off. If I could, I'd have them stuff me, and then just crudely safety pin arms back on and crap like that. Just be one of those. Yeah. No, like you got to have fun with life. You got to.
I told my wife that when I die, I want to be cremated, and there will be a list of people. I was like, you go around with this coffee can, and you go, "Hey, do you remember Paul Lee?" And they'll go, "Yeah." He said hi. Like,
yeah,
what the hell was that? Oh my God! No.
You see what God just did to us?
Oh man. Well, it's funny because I'm still in the same small town I grew up in. I got away briefly and then I come back. Never too far. Literally, I live 3 blocks away from the house I grew up in. It's one of them things. So I've run into a lot of people I grew up with, I went to school with. And, there people were like, look at me, they're like, well, what do you do now? And I'm like, I own a comic book shop and sell video games and stuff to kids and people and whatnot. And they're just like, oh, kind of figured that was what you would do. And then there's the back of my mind, I'm going, yeah, but you know what? I'm happy at my job. I don't hate my life.
Yeah. I don't like, when people used to ask me, I just don't even entertain it now. I just tell them all kinds of shit. What do you do for a living? Oh, I'm a duck herder. Well, what's that? It's too complicated. Because I would tell people, hey, I'm a machinist. And they'd be like, oh, so like you mess with drills and stuff? And I was like, no, that's a tool. I'm a machinist. I work with robots bigger than your house. And they're like, well, I got a good job too. And I'd be like, oh, look, this wasn't a pissing contest. Nope. You asked me a question. I thought maybe you were interested. Never mind. I'll go back to duck herding.
Yeah. What's funny now is that I tell people I do this, and they're like, "Huh, you're on YouTube? You make a lot of money?" No. dude, I don't. One is I don't destroy my body. I don't break things. So there's a chance that I will never be internet famous.
Hey, there is a big misconception that if you have put yourself for absolutely free on YouTube for people to watch, that for some reason you might be making money. And I'll tell you, trying to make money on YouTube, I am not 20 years old and I do not have a giant pair of tits.
There you go.
Ain't gonna happen. And if it does, then the world outside of my bus has changed dramatically and I'm really blind. That is the only way that's gonna happen.
Man, it's funny because like we were talking about is people think it's like, oh, how much you make it? I was like, I made money for I think 2 weeks with my channel. And then was immediately demonetized.
Yeah.
They're like, well, you use too much of pre-existing stuff. I'm like, you know what? I have people all over the world watching my shows and having fun. And that means more to me than the $20 I might make on YouTube. So
yeah. Hey man, that's the payoff. When I hear when people respond to message me or whatever and say, hey, something you said really caught on. Something that you said changed a way I view things. Or even when you come in, you're like, hey, you know, the dream thing, it stuck with you. To me, that is the payment. That is the payment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's no better payment. So in reality, my reality, I'm the richest man on the planet because people get it and they don't have they feel encouraged to say, I get it. And not just, hey, great show. Well, what did you like about it? It's a great show. I'm like, okay, well, then you didn't get it. But, you know, when people come to me and they're like, hey, when you talked about this, I got it. When you talked about this, it hit home. When you talked about this, I felt like you were talking to me. You know, that to me, that's the payment right there.
Well, with doing this show, I have legitimately had people contact me and are like, I wish you could do it live. I would love to be able to chime in. And I'm like, I might be able to do one live down the road. I don't know what that takes logistically. You know, I would be down for it if I could ever figure it out. But, you know, the fact that people want to chime in like it's just a normal conversation, which we are having a normal conversation in my brain because that's how we work at my shop. This is the kind of conversations we have. And, you know, I have people who like, man, I was like, I wanted to talk. You know, I felt like I could call you up and be like, yeah, exactly. That's what I was talking about. You know, I'm like, nah. And the other day, my cartoon show, I had a guy send me a message and it hit me hard because this guy's like, thank you. He goes, me and my grandbabies, you know, watch your show every Saturday because it reminds me of when I was a kid. And this is something that they will never have except for you're bringing it to them. And I want to thank you for this. And I'm like, welcome, man. I didn't know, but it was like, and these people like reached out to me and I that's one person. And like you, I like when people reach out and I reach out back to them, you know, even if I just acknowledge that they message me, like if it's just something like, hey, like the show this week, you know, I liked watching whatever. And I'm like, hey, thank you for watching, you know? And when people message me, I'm like, hey, I'm glad I could be there. I'm glad that I'm part of your life now. And it makes me feel really good as, you know, a person that I'm able to give somebody back something that they thought they had lost.
Yeah.
And
that really is the power that we possess by putting ourselves out there.
Yeah.
And talking about going live, man, Dr. Zombo's going to be going live here relatively soon. I'm working on all the details, but when I say live on the internet,
yeah, I'm
going to do a live stream and I'm going to try to set it up to where people can legitimately call in on their phones and be heard. Because I don't like having to pay attention. Once again, too many barriers. I don't want to have to sit there and try to read squinting and shit and putting on my reading glasses and okay. It takes away. So I want them to be able to call in.
Yeah.
You know, get some one-on-one and chime in and, you know, get 3-4 calls going at once so they can all feedback off each other. And why the hell not?
Yeah. I just, I had worked with another guy on YouTube and he does a toy call-in show where you talk about toys, you get a subject, whatever. And it's normally on Wednesday. Wednesdays aren't good for me because it's one day I get to spend with my one of my older boys comes over on Wednesdays and we have our father-son thing and we got our shows that we watch. We kind of bullshit and whatnot. So Wednesdays we had it on Thursday and I was able to call in and talk. And I'm like, man, I was like, this is what I kind of want to do right here. And you know, have like we're doing right now, have me and you talking and have people be able to call in and join in on the conversation. That's what I would love to do. And
I get it, man, because if you feel good about giving back, one of the things that I've really been noticing, which I mentioned in this last episode that I just put up last night, people are hurting. Mm-hmm. And they're hurting for human interaction, because it's not just lockdowns from pandemics and shit like that. It made us second guess our reality. Mm-hmm. It also made us realize, I spend 80% of my life just talking to people I've never met, you know? So it makes it as personable as possible without having to fly to another place, where, you know, you can literally window shop the people you want to talk to by watching their show, and then they go live and they're like, I want to ask them a question.
Yeah.
Now, it's not the way humans are supposed to interact, but it's the closest thing too. And I think if I throw it out there, I can continue doing the show, but I can also give something back to where, you know, I'll answer any question. And if somebody is, what do you think about this? It's very rarely that I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, and I have no answer. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
I'll come up with my best educated guess. But I think it's time, you know? So yeah. I encourage you to do the same. And then maybe we'll call each other when nobody else is watching, and we'll just call each other so we can keep the stream going and not look like assholes staring at a screen by ourselves.
Yeah, because right now, I when I do go live with the other shows, I will pop one and talk to people. But like you said, you know, I have to literally, I'm sitting there like, you know, trying to talk to people. And I'm like, I can't do that. It gives me
I can't either. And I see, you know, I've seen some streamers, they got this weird like wrist rocket thing going on where it's like they're tapping stuff in, you know, and Inspector Gadgeting it out. And it's just like, I'm not going to buy $10,000 worth of crap just so I could do the same damn thing that I would be. Not just you call in. I don't want to read your text. I want to hear your voice, because there's something beautiful about the human voice. You can tell emotion. You can tell headspace. You can tell where they're getting at with it. You can tell when someone's being an asshole and when they're being genuine, you know, because 98% of society out there is really bad at lying. Like, most people in their same realm will believe it. But then there's the 10% of us that are just like, bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. No, he's for real. All the rest of you bullshit, get out of my face. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. I get that a lot, man, at the shop and stuff. There's days where you're dealing with people who are like, you know, telling these stories about stuff, and you're like, you know, people are believing me. I'm just looking, I'm going, no, you're not. You did not. Nope. Didn't happen. Yeah. Didn't happen.
I have a hard time telling people my stories anymore, because the people that I'm around now, which are very, very few, and only like 2 or 3 out of all of the people I'm around know me from back in the day. So they know they were either part of the story. So I'll tell them a story that I was too fucked up to remember they were there for, or they'll tell me a story that I don't remember that I totally thought some other way. But now that those people are no longer there, it's kind of good, but it's also kind of like, I can't express this enough. The Doctor's exploits don't make sense to even me. I don't understand how I'm still here. I don't understand how, I don't know if people have died. I don't know, like I'm just waiting for the day where like the FBI shows up and is like, we finally got you. And I'm just like, I've been sitting here the whole fucking time. I got a YouTube show. How hard am I to find? So I think I'm in the good, but I don't know. And now that I'm around people that don't know me and don't know where I came from, it all sounds like bullshit. So I just stopped telling most of my stories.
See, I worked with a guy for several years, and he was a very sheltered. He was, you know, basically like almost fresh out of college. You know, I'm in my late 30s at the time. And, I'm talking, we're talking, telling stories and stuff like that. And he's like, yeah, that didn't happen. I'm like, dude, I've got people who will verify it happened. I was like, I'm not proud of it, but I can definitely tell you that this did happen. Like I always joke around it up until relatively recently. Every car I owned was airborne at one point or another. And I mean, not just like a little, like, just whoop and you're done. I'm like, no, full blown, go through the air. You can make eye contact with people, hit the ground, and I don't know how the car survived that level of jumping a car.
Hey man, I know all about it. I had a different nickname back in the day, which I'm not going to say out loud, but I'm sure somebody will find it sooner or later. I loved my old cars. I used to rebuild old cars. I had a 53 Chrysler. I had a couple 67, 68 Plymouth Furies, 74 Dodge Charger, Challenger. Sorry, not Charger. All kinds of good stuff. I even had a 1980 hearse. Unfortunately, it was 1980, so I didn't love it as much as my others. But, but I would drive like a fucking madman. That's as much as I'm going to say about that. Okay? But I've got scars to prove it that are very, very visible. Like I split my head wide open and they could see my skull. And I basically stole a bunch of towels out of the ER room, put them on my head after they rushed me in there with the neck brace on, ripped that thing off, stole the towels, and booked it out. They called the cops, and I was hiding in a bush just covered in blood, and they never found me. I got on a city bus and made my way home. And, kind of sutured it up myself in the bathroom, and away I went. And, I understand about the airborne car. Trust me. And I hated seatbelts, so I never wore them. So I got to see the inside close and personal with every vehicle I ever had.
I've when we were talking about this, because it's back in high school, it's not even there anymore. It's not even like, remember train tracks would go up and then they'd have the train tracks and then it would go back down.
Oh yeah.
And I had my high school girlfriend. We're driving. I was hit those train tracks. I don't know, probably doing 70. And it was like, whoop, and I did not think it was going to be that. And I went up in the air because the train was coming. So I was trying to beat the train. Yeah. And we hit the air. And, because we always have the old, always see in the movies, everything goes in slow motion. And I'm like, no.
Generally, man.
It happens. I was like, I could literally look over at my girlfriend. And I looked back and I could see the conductor's face in the train. And it's like, and it's all while I'm in air. And I remember her looking at me going, she goes, "You're going to kill us." And then wham, the car bounces, and it stalls out. And I thought, oh, I broke it. And so I get out and I look around and I can see people starting to come out of their houses and stuff. And I'm like, so I get in the car and I look over and I'm like, my knee had knocked the shifter out of gear when we were in midair. I put it in park. I started the truck back up, threw it back in drive, and took off driving.
Man, there was one night, and I'm not going to go into super detail just to keep it short, but I went to a show. I was really drunk. I was in a bad way. I went with my ex-wife. Ended up leaving my ex-wife at the show. They escorted me out, said, "You can't drive, you're drunk." And I was in a 70 Pontiac Tempest. I got in. After I opened my trunk and the security guard was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Getting something to drink." Pulled my bottle out of the wheel well, went back, and he is like, "If you drive, I'm calling the cops." I was like, "Give me a fucking break. I'll be gone before then." So, you know how you overcorrect everything when you're drinking and driving? Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I backed up really fast right through the brick wall, pulled out in front of 4 lanes of traffic, went to a friend's house, and because I've only been there drunk, I only knew one place to park to retrace my steps as to what apartment was theirs. And for some reason, I'm going in this empty parking garage, just up and then down, up and going around circles until literally I'm like falling asleep at the wheel as I'm coming down one of the curves and just overcorrect around and bam, right into the fucking wall. Come to an hour later, the car's steaming, the hood's crumpled up, the windshield has my face imprint in the spider web of it. Bumper is in the front tire, headlight hanging out. I'm like concussed like a motherfucker and still drunk. I got this thing running, got out of there and drove all the way home on the most obvious Central Avenue down Phoenix, Arizona at 2 o'clock in the morning in front of cops with no headlights, looking like Ace Ventura with my head out the window and a bottle sitting in between my legs. I'm just like, oh God, get me home. Oh God, get me home. I made it all the way home. I snuck in. My wife was already in bed. She's like, where you been? I just went to sleep. Woke up. She was like, well, you look like you're hurting. And I'm like, I am. I was like, oh, by the way, the car's totaled. She's like, what do you mean? I hear her go outside like a fucking comedy. What the fuck? You wrecked the car. And I was like, yeah, I did. And it's my car, so fuck off. And then I had to go out there. But you know what? Those old cars, good stuff. I went out there with a sledgehammer and a die grinder, couple bolts. Yeah, I pounded that shit back into place. You know?
Oh, yeah.
It looked like a Mad Max mobile after that. I was even happier with it. Still ran like a top. So I get it. I understand the things we do when we aren't paying attention to reality.
Oh, man. Yeah, definitely. Like I said, I look back now and I'm like, it was funny because like I told everybody, you know, like I said, I go to the gym and everybody's like, man, why you go to the gym? I was like, man, because I did not think I'd live this long. There was no, when I was 20, 47 was the last age I thought I would ever be.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Holy crap.
I tell you, now, you know, my regular just going around, it's a 19, what the hell is it, 86 Ford F-250, you know, because where I live, you need something a little bit more versatile with the, you know, dirt roads and whatever. But, you know, everyone's like, oh, I see you're a NRA member and you're into Harley. And I was like, oh, you're talking about the stickers that came with the truck? And they're like, why don't you just take them off if you don't believe it? And I was like, those are my incognito stickers. I was like, out where we're at, they see NRA and Harley, and they're like, oh, there's a good, hard-working, all-American boy. They're like, well, not with that Harley sticker. That's like a rebel flag. I was like, no, it's not. Rebels were driving Harleys back in the 50s and 60s. Anymore, you're a weekend warrior jerk off with too much money. I was like, you ain't going to see me on a Harley. They look nice. They sound nice. They go fast. Yay. I was like, so does a Honda, a Suzuki, a Kawasaki. Chop it up, lower it, and fucking do whatever you want to it. Just as good for a quarter of the price.
Yep. Everybody always asks me like, oh man, you look like a guy who would ride a motorcycle. I was like, oh, no. I mean, I might, but I got no feeling in most of my left hand. So when you're like trying to use a clutch and stuff, that's kind of important.
Yeah. Hey, I tell people because they pull the same shit. They're like, oh, are you a biker? And I was like, why? Because I got tattoos? I was like, fuck off. No, I'm not. You know why? Because while you're out there being a jack off on a motorcycle, I'll come flying up on your ass in an actual big ass car and just run you right the fuck over. I was like, how cool do you look now that you're stuck to my bumper? Just to be a dick. I got nothing against motorcycles. Yeah. I really don't. I think they're fucking fun.
Yeah, it's as I've said this once, I'll say it a million times. The way I drive and the fastest I like to go, I want as much steel around me as possible because when I wipe out, the chances are the car will be wiped out before I get wiped out.
Yeah, or on the flip side, if you're driving an old car, like my dad used to tell me, he was like, you won't survive the wreck, but they'll hose out the car and resell it.
Yeah. I don't have that car anymore, but
yeah, I miss my old cars, but unfortunately, you know, I look at them, I want one again because I'm just used to it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the truck is close because it still has that old feel, you know,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't beat the big bomb of badass matte black, you know, fucking death machine. And it kind of bums me out because, like, we're living in a time where it's just impractical to even like contemplate. You know, the parts went from hard to find to non-existent. The gas, we all know how that's going. And then on top of it, what I used to get from a junkyard or some guy who didn't know that his carburetor needed tuning for 500 or $1,000 at the most $1,500. They're like, here's a rust bucket with nothing in it, no engine, no transmission, $6,000. It's a gem.
Yeah.
No, it's a turd. It's a shell.
Oh,
you know,
a couple years ago now, I had this guy, he had a old Ranchero, and, you know, it looked nice. I got out there, I looked at it, it was solid. His Rancheros and El Caminos, the beds always rust out. Solid bed, solid underneath. Engine was great, sounded great. Man, I got in it. I took off like a bat out of hell. I drove it around out in the country. I come back and I was like, all right. I was like, I'll tell you if I want it tomorrow. He's like, all right. He goes, I got other people looking at it. I was like, all right. Thought about it. Said, hell with it. I wanted it. Cool. I buy it. I drove it from his house to my store, and it was overheating, blowing water everywhere. None of the gauges worked. I put gas in it. I couldn't tell anything. I was like, it ran fine 2 days ago. What happened between point A and point B? And I was like,
that's when you polish the turd before it goes.
I called that guy up and I was like, yeah, I want my money back now. And he goes, well, I was like, no. I was like, you said it was your daily driver. I was like, there's no way that car was your daily driver. I was like, I couldn't drive it from Sydney to Pickle, which was like the whole entire trip, maybe 12 miles. I was like, no. You bring me my money. I want you to come get your car. And a few hours later, a guy came and got it. And then the last time I seen it, somebody else in town bought it. And then I haven't seen it since. Because
it probably blew the fucker up.
Yeah. Now I got the two Camaros out in the garage, which if I ever get a chance to work on them, it'll be I call mine I have an 82 and it had an engine swap, so it's got, I think, a 77 Corvette engine in it.
Oh, nice.
And I call it Medusa. And everybody's like, why is that? I was like, it's ugly as shit, but it's mean. So when so when it's actually running, which the engine will run great, but the only problem is right now I cannot figure out why I cannot get gas from the tank to the engine. I checked all the fuel filters, everything's clean, but from point A to point B, it's not working. Even put a new fuel pump on it, nothing. I don't know what the hell's wrong. And
is it one of the fuel pumps that goes inside the fuel tank there?
No, the only problem is that somebody told me that might be the problem because the fuel pump is on the engine because it's a 70, so it has the actual
right.
Yeah, but there might still be a fuel pump from the old engine in the tank, and that's causing the problem.
That could be because there's a filter on that. I had to do that with an old 88 Suburban I had, where it's got the full canister inside on top of the gas tank. There's a round door. So if you can get a mirror or something and you see that on top of that gas tank, you've got a whole contraption in there that pulls the fuel out and sucks it up front. And if that's the case, you may be having a problem there. Another thing to look at is yours is carbureted, right?
Yeah.
Okay, it's not like TBI, fuel injected and none of that. Okay, then you're good there, because one of the problems I had on my Suburban, same thing. I changed that thing out of there. I changed the fuel line. I changed the fuel filter, the inline, all that crap. Come to find out, there was a sensor inside of the distributor cap, which I had never seen, that controlled, it was a fuel module inside the distributor cap. And all the tricks online were like, hey, just, wet it down when it overheats. I was like, why would I wet something down that's sitting inside a distributor cap that's distributing electronic shock? You fucking, what? So, yeah, check that out. Get a mirror up underneath that fuel tank and see if there's a round door. If there is, it's about yay big. If you see that up there, you got a whole thing in there that you need to pull out.
Okay. Yeah, it's one of the ones where right now, the only problem with the house I'm living in now is my garage is tiny. So the older Camaro that's in the garage takes up the entire garage from door to door. And I can't get in on the one side. So I have this much room on the other side. When we load it in, I put all my toolboxes and then put the car in. Because I thought, I'm going to get a shed. Well, I just got the shed and they half-assed it. So I got to wait for them to rebuild the shed. And so I can put my tools in it so I can actually get back out and work on my vehicles. So,
hey, well, when you get there, give me a call. We'll go over it together.
Cool. I will. Oh, man. Damn. I had some other stuff I was going to talk to you about. Man, we've been going for almost 2 hours.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
We started at about 11:30 my time, and it's 1:16. So,
hey, you know what? It sounds like this was one of those nights where you just wanted to fucking shoot the shit in the first place.
Oh, man. Today's been a crazy, weird day. Like I said, I apologize. I had a sick kid, and he was complaining. He's like, oh, my belly hurts. And they're like, okay, it's probably something you ate, because he has autism. So he gets, where he's like, okay, I want to eat this. I want to eat this. I want to eat this. And he'll sneak it. And usually he's pretty good. He doesn't really. And then all of a sudden I'm sitting down here getting ready for stuff, and I'm cleaning up down here in my basement. And my wife texted me. She goes, he just threw up. I'm like, oh, man. So I go upstairs and I get all the clean up, get him in the shower, get him all cleaned up, and get him ready to go back to bed. He goes over, sits on the couch, throws up again. I'm like, bud, and then he's like, no, I feel better now. And I'm like, okay, let's clean you up a little bit. And he goes, I'm going to bed. So we went over, put him in his bed, and he's been out cold since. So
good. Yeah. Hey, look, we can always pick up where we left off to. You know what I mean?
Yep.
We run our own shows. You don't have to clear it with management.
Nope. No, we do not.
Well, do you want to throw some stuff out there for me, or you want to do it on a part 2 at some later date?
Why don't we do a part 2? And we'll go back to that, because I got some other stuff, and then I want to come back to some stuff we talked about earlier. But yeah, we will definitely do another one.
All right, well, let's do that.
Which will be part 3, because we already had part 1. This is part 2. And then
hey, well, we'll do it on part 5. I don't really give a shit. Like, I ain't doing nothing.
every so often, man, we get back together and we talk. So
there you go.
Yeah,
there you go.
I can use this as a show, but this is just a conversation between two of us, so it doesn't.
Hey, you know what? Use the stuff you want, and we'll roll with the rest.
Oh man, and it's funny because, like I said earlier, I edit very little of my shows, unless like my dog's ends up being a butthead, or wants out, or my kid comes crashing down the steps or something like that. Everybody likes it because they're like, it's a natural conversation. It goes with the flow. It's nothing's forced, nothing, and everybody seems to like that. And I do. I like talking about the stuff like this. I mean, we have fun, I think,
Yeah, I have a great time, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a very chill conversation. So, hey, you got a show.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you introduced who I was on the last one.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're just bullshitting. And people dig it or they don't. It's any which way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Everybody who's watched the show has loved it. And they're like, so people have gone for me, and I've shown, here, you go to him. Here's his show. Watch it. And so hopefully they're going over there.
Hey, if they do, they do. If they don't, they don't. They're getting it one way or the other.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So
exactly.
It works for me. Well, I've had a good time.
Yeah, me too, man. Always.
I
have a
regret
blast.
nothing. Yeah.
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 So,
well, I guess until part 3.
Until part 3, sir. You have yourself a good night, and I'm going to
go
check on my kid, and you guys, you take care, and I'll probably message you online again, and we'll talk, and then we'll talk. So
sounds good to me. All right, you know the number.
Yes, I do.
See you soon.
See ya.
Good night.
Good night. As always, we want to thank Dr. Zombo for showing up and being on the show tonight. As always, the Group Therapy Podcast is brought to you by Are You Game, the best comic book, collectible, magic, toy, DVD shop, located at 124 North Sunset Drive, Pickle, Ohio, 45356. And remember, watch me every Friday night at 8 p.m. for Sci Fridays, and every Saturday at 8 a.m. for Saturday morning serials. And you can see this show drops every Monday at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. So I will see you guys next time, and take care, and I'll see you there later.